All right, welcome to another buyer video. This one's going to be added to the playlist, but a common question I've been getting lately is we got into contract, we got the EMD sent over. What's next in our 10-day due diligence, right? So, we're going to be tackling the home inspection and the request for repairs today. So, we're going to want to get that all taken care of in those first 10 days, make sure that we get all that negotiated, make sure that when you buy that new house, it's going to come over in the way that best suits your needs. So, hang tight. We're going to share the screen here. We're going to go through an already done pre home inspection, and we'll show you the formal paperwork that's going to accompany the request for repairs today. All right, guys. So this report was put together by Sean Davis and his team over at House Masters, and we were representing the buyer here. So I skipped kind of the top part with some of the personal information, but you can see is that this report is 130 pages. We're going to have a lot of detailed information. Obviously, there's also going to be a summary at the end. So don't get overwhelmed by the amount of pages. But I will tell you is that when you start dealing with home inspectors, the good ones are going to provide detailed reports. It is their job to visually inspect everything that they can see and get their hands on. They're not going to be moving stuff. They're not going to be digging through stuff, but all your normal stuff that they can visually inspect is going to be listed here. And you're going to see things, everything from outlet covers to roofing to HVAC units and pretty much everything in between. So, just to kind of give you an idea as what this starts to look like here, you can see that this is broken into different sections: the garage, the attic, the kitchen, the bathrooms, and so on. Now, with all of these sections, you're going to end up getting a satisfactory, fair, poor, not applicable, not inspected type of rating system. Now, every home inspector may be a little bit different, but for the sake of this report, that's what you're typically going to see. So as we kind of get into the nuts and bolts down here, I want to show you, just kind of peek around in here, is that, here's going to be the roofing section. You're going to get a grade on it. Typically, you're going to see some notes on here. All of this seems to be satisfactory for the most part. You're going to see some pictures accompanying with it. What's always nice too is that the pictures are numbered. So if you need to reference these pictures in any type of request for repairs or to the selling agent in this case, it makes it a lot easier knowing that everything is categorized by numbers and in some cases letters. So as you move through this, obviously a lot of pictures. We started in the roofing section here. I'm just going to continue through that. Let's take a look at some of the other sections here. Again, we'll go into some of the outside area, things that home inspectors, again, can visually see: insulation, fading of paint, wear of where maybe stucco once was. Insulation is going to be big. You can see it in the windows areas. And a lot of homes, you got to understand, are going to have wear and tear. It is the home inspector's job just to kind of point everything out for you and then let you make a decision on how that is going to affect your moving forward with the home and what you're going to be asking for and how you handle these situations. In many cases, the buyers are just simply going through this. Now that they know, they're proceeding with the sale as is. Now, in other circumstances, we may be using this to generate a request for repairs, and that can come in the form of a couple of ways. We can start identifying some of these numbers, some of these issues that are important to us to go ahead and ask that the sellers repair on their time and through their licensed handyman, or we may just let them know is that we've reached out, we've got an estimate, we prefer to use our licensed handyman, and this is the estimate that we're looking for, and these are the items that we're going to be fixing. There's pretty much the last option would be us putting a list of items together that we're requesting to be repaired, and instead of having either handyman repair them as we during this process and during the escrow phase, we may just ask that the seller provide the buyer credit, and then the buyer can go about getting these fixed once the house closes, on their own time. So you can see in some cases, again, videos, a lot of arrows, a lot of things indicating small things like plugs, testing voltage meters, weatherproofing. You're going to see some of the stuff is not always able to be tested. In this example, there's lights in the steps. During the day, they weren't able to be tested as they weren't on. Water pressure, things like that. So this is a pretty standard home inspection, but just wanted to kind of flip through some of it, kind of show you what you're going to be getting. We're going to jump down here a little bit. Again, inside, water temperature, water pressures, stove temps, oven temps. These are all things that you should be getting from your home inspector to make sure that you have the most knowledge possible about the home before you clear your due diligence stage. And again, once we get this report, we'll go into what's next is the request for repairs if we're going to be asking for them to determine how we're going to negotiate through some of the items that we would like to have repaired. All right, so now let's move into the official request for repairs. So once we've gone through the home inspection and identified a few areas that we're going to request to be repaired from the seller, we're going to go ahead and open up this document. That way we have formal documentation on what we're requesting. So obviously this top section, we're going to number it repairs one for our first reference. We'll go ahead and put in the date. We'll enter all this, the detailed information about the property, who the buyer, who the sellers are, and then we'll come down here into the nuts and bolts of things under section one. So this is a great area. Again, we'll reference the numbers system that was used in the home inspection. So we may want to say something to the fact is that we're requesting, item 2.3 to be repaired, which was insulated windows in the front, right? So what we're going to see is that we're going to go ahead and send the home inspection with this, but the agent will easily be able to match this up with picture 2.3 in the home inspection. They'll know exactly what we're talking about. And when we go ahead and finish this complete request, again, we'll provide them the options. The seller can go ahead and handle these at their cost. They can go ahead and have our handyman come over and fix them, or we can just move forward with a seller credit towards the buyer at the close of escrow, and the buyer can then go ahead and take care of the repairs that they want to make. So we'll go ahead and finish this all out, but this is where we would list everything. We can continue to go. Maybe we got some cracked tiles on the roof and so forth. You can kind of see where we're going with here with this. At the end of this, I always like to get an estimate from one of our local handyman first to kind of have an idea of where we're at price wise, so that either when the seller gives us a number or we are able to provide them the number, we already have a reference point of where to start. Or if the seller is offering us a credit, we already have an idea of what kind of credit we're going to need to go ahead and proceed with these repairs. So once all this is done, we will send it off for signature. That way everything gets recorded with our transaction coordinator and stays in compliance. So we'll have this here going ahead to sign. And then down here with the sellers, we'll either be checking that they accept the request for repairs or they've made a counter to our repairs. And maybe we've asked for $5,000 worth of repairs. They could counter it 3,000, 4,000, or anything that they want to try to counter with. And they could also just finally just straight out reject the request for repairs. And at this point, we would have a negotiating point. Do we want to accept the property as is? Do we want to try to continue negotiating to find balance here? Or worst case is that we just say, you know what, since we can't come to terms here, we're going to go ahead and cancel during our due diligence phase, and we'll go ahead and cancel that transaction and look for a new home. Really, that concludes our section on the home inspection and request for repairs. The biggest thing is once we go through that home inspection, we're going to identify the items that we're going to look to get requested, and we're either going to request that the seller have those fixed, they use our handyman or their own to get those fixed, or we may just be requesting a credit from the seller for closing, and we'll go ahead and take care of those with our own handyman once the property closes. Now, it is important to note that once we decide on this, now we're going to get this all negotiated and handled during our due diligence period, whatever we negotiated in the initial purchase agreement. But once we do agree to those in that due diligence period, those repairs really just need to be made before our walk through a close of escrow. So if the seller is going to be making them, or they agreed to have our handyman make them, those don't have to be done within that due diligence period for everyone to stay in compliant with the contract. Those can be done, a week or two down the road, as long as they're done prior to close of escrow and us as the buyers are signing off on them that they've been completed. Now, in some cases with some home inspectors, they will also come back out and inspect those items that we had requested to be repaired, just to give you some additional peace of mind if you so choose. Or, we can go in there with the visual inspection and just kind of test everything to make sure everything looks like it has been taken care of that we requested. So that kind of walks us through the home inspection and request for repairs. Hopefully we can navigate this first section pretty smoothly and pass on our due diligence period and enter into the next phase of the contract.